This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Friday edition. Today we'll have on the show Byron Williams, former New York Giants wide receiver, Keith Engle from TGI Sports Talk, and hopefully we have the Philly sports guy in today. See if he can make it in today. Sometimes Fridays he can't make it in, but we're going to say he's going to be on today. Jack, I'm sorry, I'm Mac, your host, and Jack, your co-host, and we're going to get into. Yeah, that guy with the blue shirt, that's Jack. I'm Mac with the hat. We're gonna get open today, and of course, this I think is this the first time all 32 teams have played each other. You know, they played in the opening day, Jack. Right? This is historical in that sense.
Well, yeah. In what sense, Mac?
In sense, this is the first time that all 32 teams have played opening day.
Yeah, I mean it is, but the scheduling, I wasn't crazy about it. Interleague play right off the bat, Mac, opening day, the Yankees and the Giants. Yeah. I mean, what are they thinking of? I mean, rivals should have been matched within their division for the most part, and it was. I can understand that. Like, for example, the Red Sox are playing the Baltimore Orioles, a division game that way, but I couldn't understand the interleague aspect of it. You know, the Yankees and Giants. It should have been avoided. Interleague should be on a limited basis. But in any event, the Anthony Volpe era began for the New York Yankees yesterday. That's what we should get to. No generic talk, Mac. I'm sick of this generic talk. Next thing, we're going to talk about shifts. We're going to talk about strike zones, as we should. Because now it's newsworthy. I can't.
There was kind of
talk about it, but
there was
Anthony Volpe yesterday. Let's start off with him. 21 years.
I don't want to start off with Volpe. I want to start off with our captain. I want to start with Aaron Judge. I think it's a bigger story that he hit the first home run in Major League Baseball yesterday, kind of picking up where he left off in the regular season. We know the postseason he didn't have a good one, but he hits the first home run of the year. I think he got another base hit or double during the game. Volpe was there. He got a walk, worked a walk, stole a base. He looks like he's enjoying this more than a player should be allowed to. But he's going to be a good addition to the team, Jack. I think Volpe may have a better first year than Derek Jeter.
Who knows? But comparisons are definitely going to be drawn. Shortstop position. Jeter was a young kid like Volpe, who's 21 years old. His whole future's ahead of him. The big story of the game yesterday, the Yankees 5-0 win, to me, even though it was Anthony Volpe per se, his first game, he's the one that created the buzz. And, of course, Aaron Judge picking up where he left off was Garrett Cole. He was dealing, Mac. Yes. He was dealing. What did he do? He struck out like his first 7 outs of the game. Yeah. I mean, throwing hard. He looked in great form. Garrett Cole looked like the legitimate ace that he is.
Yes.
He looked like the legitimate ace who you built a pitching staff around yesterday. And it was a good sign so early in the season.
Yeah, he ended up with 11 strikeouts, Jack, giving up only 3 hits. Aron Mauricio got the save with 2 innings and 3 strikeouts. I never heard of the guy, so I'm glad,
Well, he's been around, but the Yankee bullpen came through good. You know, a game like that, when you play in that type of weather, Mac, it was in the mid-40s.
Yeah.
If you could get a pitcher who throws hard or throws nasty breaking balls, it's very tough on the batter because when you make contact with the ball, it hurts your hands at times as well. So batters tend to be a little timid and not quite dig in the way they should. But a very good win for the Yankees. But a caution, it's one game.
Oh, yeah.
I think we tend to overrate opening day. It's exciting. We have a big buzz. But the bottom line, it is only one game, and it could be a bit of an aberration. Look what happened yesterday. The Colorado Rockies who most people are picking to finish in last place in their division. They beat the San Diego Padres 7-2. And it was a game that was so eagerly anticipated by the fans in San Diego because they feel they have the type of team this year that can win it all. They have a bunch of stars on that team, yet they lose to the lowly Colorado Rockies 7-2. So that puts it in perspective. It's only one game. So for all the fanfare, let's not get too excited, one way or the other. Jacob deGrom, former Met, has his debut with Texas against the Phillies, pitches very poorly. But, Texas does win the game. But is it an indication of how he's going to pitch? No, deGrom's going to be fine. But it's, again, I can't stress again how much not to get excited. But then you see Ohtani, 10 strikeouts, pitching so magnificently. And he's going to be the talk throughout the season because he's very unlikely to sign an extension with the Angels, meaning he's going to be a free agent. So all season long, there's going to be Ohtani talk until he signs with the team next offseason.
Good morning, Jason. Glad to have you in. As
Hi, Jason.
Favorite listeners. And let's not forget about Gleyber Torres, DHing yesterday, Jack, too. Goes 1 for 3, scores 2 runs. It looks like the Yankees, coming off last year again, it looked like they started having fun. And adding Volpe and some of these other younger players, I think is going to keep going in that direction instead of being so serious as they have in the past. So,
Gleyber Torres was the second baseman yesterday for the Yankees.
I had him down as DH, Jack.
As the DH. Okay, let me.
Box score was.
I'm going to check 1 second on the box score again. But Gleyber Torres is going to be the Yankees' second baseman this year.
Yes. Yeah.
And the Yankees are fortunate that they didn't trade, Gleyber Torres in the offseason. A lot of people were calling for it to be done. And Gleyber Torres really is going to be a fixture, for years to come, I think, or should be for the Yankees as their second baseman. Let me take a look one thing, Matt.
Go right ahead.
Why am I missing this? Why am I missing? Oh, you're right.
I'll keep with the scores, Jack.
Okay, Mac. I think you're right. I think you got me on this one. You did get me on this one, Mac.
So, okay, anyway.
You're right. I'm wrong. Gleyber. Wow.
Yeah, that's all right. Atlanta wins 7-2 over Washington, Jack. Baltimore holds off Boston. They won 10-9. Chicago beats Milwaukee.
Max left the game early for Atlanta, and he's one of their key aces on that staff. So he has to be healthy and have it together if they're going to, win it this season.
Yeah. Toronto beats St. Louis 10-9. Texas beats the Phillies 11-7. Noah didn't look that good. We had the Mets beating Florida 5-3.
Miami,
Miami, Florida. Nemo, it just keeps doing it, Jack. I think he scored 3 runs yesterday, 3 RBIs. So that center fielder out there still doing his thing.
They paid him well enough in the offseason when he became a free agent. He signed an 8-year deal for $162 million.
Yeah.
A little over $20 million a year, for the Mets to keep Nemo. He's age 29. It'll carry him through age 37. So they're counting on him to, be their long-term center fielder there.
Right. Minnesota beats Kansas City 2-0. Pittsburgh beats the Reds 5-4. Chicago beats Houston 3-2. The Dodgers beat Arizona 5-2. The California Angels beat Oakland 1-0. Cleveland.
No, California Angels lost to Oakland, didn't they? Yesterday?
1-0. Thank you.
2-1. They were winning 1-0.
Yes.
And the Athletics scored 2 runs in the last of the 8th inning after Ohtani was out, and they pulled the game out. Another disappointing loss for the Angels, one of many over the years, and it's why Ohtani is partly disillusioned in being with a team that is not even having a sniff of the playoffs, let alone the World Series.
Well, I know Trout had a double, a guaranteed double, and this guy made a heck of a catch, robbing him of that double, which might have changed the game. But I don't know, Jack. I think Ohtani, if the Angels can put it together this year, make a run in the playoffs, I think he might stay. Depends if they start winning or not. Seattle wins 3-0, Jack. So that closes out the scores. As I said, in the box scores, Judge goes 2 for 4. Gleyber Torres DHs goes 1 for 3, and Volpe gets his first start on opening day. Pick up a walk.
It's something to keep an eye on with the Yankees. Josh Donaldson at third base. Okay, he didn't hit last year, and it's crucial that Josh Donaldson get off to a good start, because when he was introduced, him along with Aaron Hicks, there was like a smattering of boos as well as cheers, and that's bad for opening day.
Yeah.
So Josh Donaldson did get one hit yesterday, so that's fine, but he can't be in a slump for the month of April. Basically, he can't go 2-3 weeks and we can't look up and see he's batting 112.
Yeah.
And we can't have an attitude with Josh Donaldson. Oh, he'll snap out of it. There's time. There's this. He's got to get in front in this situation. Get the fans on his side. Hit, play well. Show you belong there. That you're the old Josh Donaldson, not an old Josh Donaldson.
Gotcha. So the Phillies, they jumped out 2-0, ended up losing the game 11-7. We had, as I said, didn't pitch too well. Realmuto was the hitting star for the Phillies, going 3 for 5. Alex Bohm went 3 for 4. So a lot of runs again in the Phillies game. The Phillies are known for putting up a lot of runs. Where they've always been suffering is at their pitching, Jack. I don't know. Noah, I think Noah's coming up on a contract deal, or he had something.
We'll see how that works itself out. But the Phillies are fighting through certain injuries now, most notably Bryce Harper. Schwab is out for them. Rice Hoskins is out for the year. So they have to battle through, certain issues. Listen, same thing with the Mets. Justin Verlander, went on the injured reserve list. They're going to check him out next week. And he was expected to pitch game 2 today normally. And it's not the start you want after they signed him to that big 2-year, $86 million contract. Was it $88 million or whatever? Who cares, $1 or $2 million, Mac? But the point is, with Edwin Diaz going out for the year, they really need Schertz and Verlander, to come up big as the two, future Hall of Famers they are. David Robertson closed the game out for the Mets yesterday. Very interesting. David Robertson, he's been around forever, Mac. He was on the 2009 Yankee championship team.
Yeah.
I mean, you sometimes wonder players like that. Why doesn't a team just keep them for their whole career and see how it turns out? Because if they could pitch well for other teams, why let them escape? It's like the case with the Mets, who had Nolan Ryan as a young pitcher. Imagine they kept giving Nolan Ryan all the money he wanted to just keep him. Imagine what they would have had for their whole, the Mets would have had all those years had he been a career Met.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, I told you about Robertson. I told you we should get him in the offseason as a closer, Jack, and you kind of laughed at me. I
don't think he's a closer type. He's closing out a necessity right now.
Yeah, but I still think he's got what it takes for sure.
He has to. This is out of necessity. The Mets have no choice, because you don't just make a phone call and get an elite closer. Sometimes when your main closer goes down, teams close by committee.
Right.
The Mets had that with Seth Lugo, for a little while when Edwin Diaz was slumping in the past. So you kind of close by committee.
Well, again, he's one of my favorite Yankee players when he was with the Yankees. Some history made again, not just the 32 teams, but the new clock rules are in force You had Marcus Stroman of the Chicago Cubs pitching with the first violation of the pitch clock, ended up walking somebody, and Rafael Devers called out on strikes by the pitch clock violation. So the clock gets 2 of them, Jack, in the first game. Great trivia question, as we were talking about before the show. So, I mean, how
whether they did that deliberately, Mac,
Yeah.
like Marcus Stroman, just to get in the history books, like we talk about Ron Bloomberg being the first DH in history. That's his claim to fame. You know what Ron Bloomberg would be remembered as if we didn't remember him as the first DH in history? A Yankee player who never fulfilled his potential. Some people would say he's even a bust as a player. But because he was the first DH in history, that's his ID card.
Yeah.
That's a big, big deal.
Yeah, it definitely is. And so will this. I said maybe they'll have a card come out. You know, they get the cards out, and Rafael Devers will have on his card.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you, you don't like these new rules, Mac. You're like a purist, okay? You were the guy who wanted to kick Aaron Judge off the Yankees. You didn't have any patience with the guy. You're a purist. But let me tell you what I like, Mac. 2 hours and 33 minutes. That was the time of the Yankee game. That's a decent amount of time. Not too short, not too long. 2 hours and 33 minutes.
Yeah. But it wasn't a close game. It didn't go into extra innings, Jack. So, you know,
They didn't linger on forever. You're not keeping the fans are tired of these extra long games. It's absurd.
Then they aren't baseball fans, Jack. As
they
I told
leave
you,
early, as it is.
They're not baseball fans. As I told you, when you went to a baseball game, you knew it was going to take 3 hours. You brought your son.
It doesn't even take more than 3 hours.
You had a good time. You had a relaxing day. You ate your ballpark Franks. You had your big Coke. You sat back and you enjoyed the game as much as you could. And, you know, hey, listen, it's a difference of opinion. I think baseball should be left alone, as I think a lot of sports should be just left alone. So, good morning, Craig. How you doing today? Glad to have you on, buddy.
Craig.
So, and by the way, Craig, great job yesterday on the show. You did a good job with Jack and that night on your boxing and your UFC.
Craig's our new boxing and UFC guy in this segment of the show. It'll leave me time to talk about other things like my favorite topic, Aaron Rodgers, stuff like that.
Right.
That's what I like to talk about.
I know you can't wait to get to that. We'll talk about him in a little bit.
I'm waiting for the Aaron Rodgers news to break. Become official. Yeah.
Definitely. Popping in the show early. I'm glad to see him. Byron Williams here to give us a little Giants and NFL update. Good morning, Byron.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
Doing great. I love them Super Bowl statues behind you there. Byron.
Yeah, that means there's greatness behind every man that ever walked.
That's right. Exactly. So Greg writes says hi to you, Byron. And
how you doing, Greg?
So today, there's quite a bit of Giants news in sports. First of all, the most important thing is, I guess, is the number situation, right? You can wear 0 now. So everybody's all excited about that. We got Paris Campbell to wear 0. We got our new tight end. He's wearing number 12. You know, Byron, I think to go along with Slayton, who was really our only deep threat last year, you got Paris Campbell, who was that breakaway fast run wide receiver that we've been waiting for. He showed a lot of promise, but the injuries, Byron, the injuries of Paris Campbell is the only thing I have a little question about. If he can stay healthy, we've got a heck of a weapon there.
Yeah, no doubt. And when they added that extra game and the extra week to the NFL, and you can just see last year how the injuries piled up on every team. So I think that's the key. You know, these guys got to get healthier. I think they need to work hard in the offseason. The good thing they got to really be concerned about is participation in the OTAs, get the timing down, making sure that Jones is protected. You know, have time to throw the ball, because the NFC East is they got some tough defenses on that side of town. So they definitely gonna have to be a little bit focused. But it seems like there's a lot of optimistic. And and looking at the Giants is exciting. I think too, you're just as good as your leader. Brian Daboll is doing some things different. He's showing up at the Rangers games, and they putting the camera on him everywhere he's going. So he's looking to, he's making exciting things happen. I think to be a coach, you want to be a complete coach. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, that's very important, Byron. That the Giant head coach Brian Daboll shows up at the New York Ranger games and New York Knicks games. Very important, helping
spread the word.
Yeah, I think that brings excitement, and it increased the sales of the paraphernalia, your jerseys and things like that. So that's why you got
Brian Daboll doesn't have a jersey.
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying he making people buy the jerseys of the Giants. No, I'm saying he increasing the market value of the sales, even in merchandising.
I'm sure he's recruited a lot of Giant fans by showing up at Knicks and Ranger games.
Yes.
But just think about Jack, though. He's doing things that you don't normally see coaches do.
Exactly. It's a good point. And I think, this is going to be all about Daniel Jones this year. They're getting them weapons. They got Waller, a tight end, a good tight end we haven't really had since Jeremy Shockey. The only problem with him again is injuries, Byron. If he can get past the injuries, Waller will be a great tight end, a great player for the Giants, and again opens up that Giant offense, so makes more room for Saquon Barkley running the ball. So it kind of blends together. And not that I think the Giants are going to Super Bowl as I predicted last year, but I think that they're going to have a formal team in the NFC East.
Yeah, and then you got to look at the Giants training medical staff. Ronnie Bond's been there forever. He's been there probably 50 years. And the medical staff, I think they do a good job at making keeping the players healthy and getting back on the football field. So that might be a small piece of it that we'll see if that can happen, just keeping Darren Waller and those guys, maybe healthy throughout the year.
Greg's going to needle me as the Eagles division. My prediction, Greg, is the Eagles and Giants split this year. So they haven't done that in a while. So that's my prediction.
But, the good thing about the NFC East is going to be very interesting to see what happens because back-to-back winners hadn't happened in a while. So we'll see if that's going to happen for the Eagles.
I agree. The Giants co-owner, John Mara, was in the news. He's opposed to the latest flex proposal. I know the NFLPA is very concerned about this too. First they changed the Sunday afternoons to Sunday night games to get the best games on. Then they went Sunday to Monday to get the best games on the night in prime time. Now they're talking about going all the way to Thursday, Byron. Now, this is a huge change. Families are going to have to change, what they want to do. They want to go see the game and they got other plans made now or whatever. And so Mara went to far as to say it's abusive to the fans, having to change their plans. And he was totally against it. I guess it's going to come back up in May for a vote.
Yeah, I think it come back for May. Yeah, I just think too, spreading the games around like that could hurt families and, study time for kids. I mean, quality time for the fans. So it might be one of those things because now you're getting these TV deals and they're coming up with these dynamic schedule changes and things like that. So it's going to be, it might be too much. It's not like baseball, basketball. I think football, you got to have time for the players to rest in between games. I think that's going to hurt. That might hurt the game. I might hurt the game.
You guys are a piece of work. You support games in bitter cold weather, 11-degree weather. You don't care. Families are sitting out there. So, and now you're complaining about a flex schedule, and you don't care about going to these games in weather conditions. The games last year.
Jack, sitting out there is their choice. They don't have a choice here. The NFL.
They don't have to go to the games on the flex schedule.
I understand.
The games on Prime were awful last year. You know how they were pathetically bad on the Prime network, as it turned out. And Al Michaels legendary broadcaster. He made the move to take over at Prime, be the main broadcaster. He was bored. It was his worst career move since he left being a broadcaster for the Big Red Machine at Cincinnati, where he had Johnny Bench, Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, Tony Perez. And he went to the San Francisco Giants, who had no one at the time, and it was cold and bitter. So he went from a party atmosphere in Cincinnati, it was a carnival atmosphere every night, to a depressing situation in San Francisco at the time. And he admitted that he did it for the money at the time, but it turned out to be a terrible move. And he went to Prime. I watched some of the games last year. The games I didn't watch, I couldn't take it because it was brutally bad. Okay? And so you need that flex schedule. But I will say this. Flex schedule, when are they starting it? It shouldn't be early in the year. There should be a cutoff point. 17-week schedule, maybe after 10 games. Because if a team you are counting on to play a game is all of a sudden 3-6 and they're out of it and their marquee players injured, you want to slip someone else in their place.
Yeah, and that's what they've been doing. They actually been doing that based off of the winning percentage and who's making the move for the playoffs for sure. But I just think too, with this Amazon contract and some other things going on with the NFL, they have to make sure that they be able to have good product on the field and make sure these fans are taken care of too. So it's all about the fans at the end of the day. You got to have a TV rating, but you also got to make sure the fans are okay with you doing some stuff. So they might need to start doing surveys, Jack. That's all we're saying. We just saying, it can be disruptive because of schools and the kids have to go to school. But a lot of people bring their kids to those games.
No, Byron, I don't think it's fans of the home team. For example, you and Mac are going to follow the Giants no matter what. I'm going to follow the Jets no matter what. But it's the teams that we're not a fan of. Those are the games you want people to watch, those primetime games. The fans across the country. So the game has to be like appealing, like marquee players. We're always going to want to see a Patrick Mahomes and a Joe Burrow. But certain of the other teams, like the Jacksonville Jaguars, we don't know what type of year they're going to have next year. But if they regress and Trevor Lawrence isn't playing well and they're scheduled for prime time late in the year, we're not going to want to see them.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
So talking about Jack brought up the Jets there. Let's talk a little bit about the Jets. And Byron, I want you in on this too. I think the Jets have got to start putting pressure on the Packers. I mean, I understand they're trying to work together. They've been saying that since they started this whole thing. And to get them to take this seriously, I think they should call Lamar Jackson, bring him in for some serious talks. And I think that will make the Green Bay Packers, maybe make a faster move. If the Jets are interested in Lamar Jackson in any way, which I know every team should be, but if they bring in Lamar Jackson and start having serious talks for him, it'll be time for the Green Bay Packers to make a move one way or the other. And I don't think they want him back there. What are your thoughts on that, Jack?
Yeah, but I think for sure that the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers, that's a dead subject. But yeah, I think the Jets need to do something to spice it up. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Good thing you guys aren't GMs. Just think of the implications of what you're saying, especially Mac, and you agree with them, Byron, so I include you in that category. You call in Lamar Jackson for talks. Now you're ticking Aaron Rodgers off, and he could reverse field saying he's no longer interested in being with the Jets.
Goodbye.
He's going back to Green Bay or another team. And you can't call in Lamar Jackson for talks. That's meaningless. You make an offer to him. You offer him the fully guaranteed deal that he wants. That's the only way you get his attention. And yes, if you offer him the deal he wants, he'll sign with the Jets. But what happened? But now the Jets have to give up the 2 number 1 picks, the number 13 in next year's number 1, which might be fine if you could get Lamar Jackson I won't argue that. But what happens if the Ravens do an about face? They re-sign Lamar Jackson. They have right to match the contract. Now, where were the Jets?
He's not going to play. He's not going to play. He's not going to play. He is not going to play with the Ravens. He's already told him that, Jack.
Then
He's
he
done with the Ravens.
he didn't say he was going to play. He requested a trade. There's a difference.
Same thing.
He'll play with the Ravens. If all that money, so if all that money's there and the Ravens match the contract, give him the guaranteed money. You're telling me he's not going to play for the Ravens?
He does not want to play with the Ravens, Jack. He's done with the Ravens. All done.
He won't be done if he has the contract.
Oh, yes, he will. If the Jets offer him that money to sign him, he's going to the Jets. There's no doubt.
But not if the Ravens match it. If they match it, Lamar Jackson has no choice but to go to the Ravens.
What do you mean he has no choice? He says, I'm not playing. There's his choice.
Okay, let him retire.
He ain't going to retire. The Ravens would not allow that, Jack. The Ravens would not allow that. The Ravens would cut ties with him. They're going to cut ties with him.
No, they just wouldn't pay him in the meantime.
They would not. So you're gonna. I don't know if they cannot pay him or not. You better ask Byron about that. You better ask Byron about that. If Lamar Jackson says I'm hurt and doesn't play, they got to pay him. Isn't that right, Byron?
They have to pay him.
What are you talking about?
And they do have to match the.
You went from retiring to him now saying he's
You
hurt.
said you're the one that said retiring. I didn't say retiring. You did. I'm saying that the Jets have a great opportunity here to make Aaron Rodgers and the Packers make a move. In fact, I think they'd be better off telling Aaron Rodgers to get lost. And what other team in the league, Jack, is going to be able to pay Aaron Rodgers all that money and give the Jets?
Right now, the Jets and the Packers seem to be on good terms in the sense both of them say something will get done. They're working on it together. There's no panic move here. You start talking to Lamar Jackson, talking to him is meaningless. You have to make Lamar Jackson an offer, point blank. It's not a discussion. Oh, Lamar, would you like to be a New York Jet? Yeah, and then you'll tell Lamar Jackson, you want to be a Jet, you take our offer. This is your chance to prove it. You're going to tell him. And you're going to offer him a less than value deal. You're going to have to give him a fully guaranteed contract.
You bring Lamar to New York, and the Packers are going to make a move one way or the other. You just bring him into New York.
Aaron Rodgers might make a move and decide he doesn't want to go to the Jets.
You guys would be better off, Jack. You'd have a 10-year quarterback. You'd be better off.
I agree, but it's not going to happen. The Ravens could match the offer.
We already went over this.
Byron, what would Lamar Jackson do if the Ravens matched the offer? They matched the Jets' offer. He has a fully guaranteed contract, the same money. The Jets are out in the cold. He's a Raven then.
That's true. Is
he going to retire and leave like 230, 240 million on the table? Of course not.
He will not.
Is he going to show up at Ravens camp and decide I'm not playing anymore? I'm just going to decide I'm injured.
He will not be a Raven next year, Jack. He's not going to be a Raven. Lamar Jackson has already said he wants to be traded. He doesn't want to play there. Period. So
he's really frustrated with the Ravens, so he's ready to go. For sure.
Oh yeah, he would like to. He's ready to go. If another team will pay him, he wants to go elsewhere. If he can get his money, he wants to go elsewhere. The market hasn't opened up for Lamar Jackson. No one is offering him the money he thought he would get. It hasn't happened. That's the problem. He has nowhere really to go. And if a team does trade for Lamar Jackson, I can guarantee you this. I can virtually guarantee it. No one is going to sign him to the type of deal he wants for next year. He's going to have to play basically on a 1-year contract next year. And then if the team likes him enough, maybe they'll sign. The same thing happened with Jamal Adams with the Jets. He forced his way out of the Jets. He went to Seattle. Seattle gave up what, 2 number ones for Jamal Adams, the safety? And what happened? Seattle did not sign him to a new contract until the next year. Then they gave him his money.
Yeah.
So Lamar Jackson is not going to get his contract going somewhere else at this point. You know, if he would have, teams would have been all over him by now, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true because the salary cap come in, you know, with the team. They ain't got a whole lot of money. A lot of teams don't have a lot of money to be able to give him no way. So he kind of in a bad situation, I think.
Washington Commanders are right next door to Baltimore. They have Sam Howell as their quarterback. That's terrible for the Commanders. Terrible. Lamar Jackson would have been great for the Commanders next door, and they didn't bid on Lamar Jackson. And then Eric Bieniemy, their new offensive coordinator, what a fit that would have been. But no, my thing is, Mac, you're right in this sense, Mac. I agree with you. Jets would be better off with Lamar Jackson long-term than Aaron Rodgers. Absolutely. He would be their quarterback of the future going forward. And a guy, former MVP, you know, great quarterback for them. But to start playing this game with Lamar Jackson and make it seem like they might move on from Aaron Rodgers is going to create an ugly narrative. You might say, well, now the Packers are going to step up. But let's say the Packers do step up and trade Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, and then the Jets stop talking to Lamar Jackson. Now you have a disgruntled Aaron Rodgers, you know, who might stop playing his games, coming to camp late. You know the way Aaron Rodgers could be.
Yeah, I do. I just think it's something that needs to be done to get this deal going. And he's got to do something, Jack. Because then give me this. Then hear this scenario: Aaron Rodgers and the Jets and the Packers don't come to an agreement. They just don't come to an agreement.
At all, you feel at all. But the Packers have to, and the Jets have to. You both, you know, it's a case both sides. No, they have the Packers are starting to back off from their position that they have to have a number 1 draft choice. You know, so they're trying to figure out what type of compensation, you know, and the Packers can't accept Aaron Rodgers back, and the Jets can't do without Aaron Rodgers for now. So, you know, both sides, I think, have an understanding. You know, they just have to work it out. I don't think it's gotten bitter on that. And the only way things get shook up, if someone else contacts the Packers, another team, and all of a sudden they blow the Packers away with an offer. Let's say the Washington Commanders suddenly call the Packers up and they give them an offer that definitely far exceeds what the Jets would give. You know, I mean, there's always a possibility of something like that happening, but I think the Jets have a good read on what's going on around the league, and maybe the Jets are thinking, if another team comes out of nowhere and they step up, maybe we will then have to give our number 1 and number 2 and all. I don't know. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I see your point, Mac, but I think trying to force the issue could cause more harm than good right now.
Yes, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jack. I don't know. If I was a GM, I would never wanted Aaron Rodgers to be going. He's lazy and he's crazy. That's
he can wake up and say, I'm going to go into my dark closet, and then right. You know you don't have a quarterback.
Yeah, after they offer him the deal, he's got to go think about it for a while.
You know, as a former wide receiver, Byron, you get an Aaron Rodgers on your team, it's a difference maker, not just on the field, attitude in the huddle. Any guy who feels he's a big shot wide receiver, when Aaron Rodgers enters the huddle, unlike most quarterbacks, he's the man. Every receiver's in awe of him. They take a step back. They know who's in charge of that huddle completely. They know who's the boss. No one in that huddle considers themselves an equal to Aaron Rodgers. They know who the boss is there in the huddle.
Yeah, no doubt. No, and that's the good thing that you get with Aaron Rodgers. You get the same thing like Tom Brady went when he went to Tampa Bay. I mean, you see a whole different dynamic in the style of play and the attitude of the player for sure.
Yeah.
So we gave our viewers the the Aaron Rodgers fill. So there you go. Jack, also, what is your favorite Major League Baseball team, Byron?
I just try to keep up with the Yankees and the Rangers, and I like watching the San Francisco Giants, and of course the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals. I always have kept up with them because of the tradition that they have and some of the players. And then I keep up with a couple of players like Mookie and those guys. But I'm excited about the Rangers right now because we hadn't won an opening game in a while. So we won last night 11-7, and so news is real hot here in Dallas.
Right.
Well, Rangers are they've spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I don't know, will they contend? That'll be about 500. I mean, you look at Texas, the whole state. I like to look at states.
Mm-hmm.
The Houston Texans are nothing to talk about, even though they're going to get their franchise quarterback, either C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, unless they surprise us and take one of the other quarterbacks going at number 2. But they're not going to be that good. Dallas is always very interesting, always nationwide news. The Rangers haven't been good for a while, and I guess the Dallas Mavericks, what a disappointment.
They went the other way.
Mavs, and there's nowhere to go. They might have to rebuild. It just shows you something, guys, with these owners. We focus on certain owners like Jerry Jones, Mark Cuban. These are power owners. These are guys who get things done. Well, what are they getting done? And I like Jerry Jones, and the Cowboys have been successful in the sense they were 12-5 the last 2 years. They've really been good. They just haven't made a serious run at the Super Bowl. But you look at these owners who'll do anything to win, yet they go 25 years without winning a championship.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And then the good thing, the Dallas Stars are doing well. So the fans is roaming in to watch them play. But yeah, it's consistency as far as trying to make sure you can win games after games and be consistent with winning. And Dallas have gotten 12-5, but the fans are still frustrated with them not getting to the Super Bowl.
Well, let me ask you something about Dallas. You have a feel for the area. Are the Dallas Stars, the NHL hockey team, are they more? They're not as popular as the Cowboys. The Cowboys are the most popular team in Texas, right? Are they more popular, the Dallas Stars, than the Houston Texans? Well, they're Houston, not Dallas, but
I think just up here they pretty popular. The fan base is growing, but Houston, they too many Houston Texans fans up here.
Dallas. I started to cut in. I gave a bad example. I want to compare them to the other teams. Are they more popular, the Dallas Stars, than the Texas Rangers?
I think here lately, it was a lot of people went to the game yesterday. So I do think that they're becoming popular, but now that the Rangers are excited, we got 2-time Cy Young winner. I think the Rangers are excited right now. I think it's kind of goes back and forth based off if you win games, I think.
Who is more popular, the Dallas Stars or the Dallas Mavericks? Not who's a better team.
Stop.
The Mavericks right now because they've been around longer.
Stop. You can't compare hockey.
Because
you can't compare hockey. You can't compare hockey to the 3 other sports unless the sports around there suck. I mean,
you can. My buddy who lives in Tampa Bay tells me all the time the Tampa Bay Lightning are more popular than the Tampa Bay Rays. Their hockey team in Tampa is more popular than their baseball team. Their baseball team has been successful.
That's an exception to the norm, Jack, though. Football, the top 3 teams are normally more popular than hockey in the area. Normally. That's the exception. When, you could say the Knicks own New York, but I mean, when they're losing, they're not. I mean, you still got the fans. But then you're looking at the Giants and you're looking at the Jets or, some other team. The Islanders and the Rangers are popular when they're winning.
Rangers, even if they won the Stanley Cup this year, not going to be more popular than the other sports.
I agree, Jack.
Yeah.
So, Jack, to let all you Mets fans that watch the show out there, to let you know, Jack will talk great about the Mets. He'll say, he wants New York to win and all this good stuff. But down deep in his soul, he hates the Mets. Whenever we start talking about the Yankees, he brings up the Mets, how bad they are and how they haven't done this and they haven't done that. And, so don't let him fool you. So I don't know if Jack was happy last night with the Mets winning their opening game 5-3. Yeah, he'll start off really, that's good. I'm happy for New York. But if it gets midway through the season, as soon as the Mets start losing, Jack will be happy. He'll come in the show smiling. And so, Jack, are you happy the Mets won the first game?
Yeah, I want to see all, teams in New York win. You want to see that. It's like, I'd like to see the Mets get to the World Series and lose to the Yankees there. That would be an ideal situation. Now, the commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred, he seemed to be critical of Steve Cohen for all the money being spent, that the Mets are spending on these free agents, how unfair it is. And I'm going to tell you something. The Met fans used to whine all the time when George Steinbrenner would spend money on Yankee players. That's all they complained. They wouldn't give the Yankees any credit. Oh, they're buying pennants. They're buying World Series. They're buying this, buying that. Well, what are the Mets doing now? They're spending more than anyone else. They're buying players more than anyone else.
Yep.
Okay, so now it's okay for the Met fans. After all their crying and their complaining, and look, it got them 101 wins last year. That was great. They didn't even win the division. They blew it at the end. They completely choked. And then after choking and blowing the division lead, they didn't even show up for the playoffs. Didn't even show up.
There
Get
it is.
eliminated by these San Diego Padres. So
There's the truth.
good
There's
bridge to them, and
That's so you speaking what you're mad about.
No, all their complaining and whining about the money that the Yankees spent, in the past about George Steinbrenner. That's all we'd hear. Never any credit to the Yankees. Well, let's see the Mets win. They're spending the same type of money that the Yankees used to do all the time.
See?
Yankees still spend money. They just spend it a little more wisely, They re-signed Aaron Judge. They signed Carlos Rondon, a pitcher, to a 6-year deal. Good signing. But the Mets just think they'll buy everything. This Steve Cohen, Byron, he has like $16-17 billion.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that if you have all those billions, you have 17 billion. Can you imagine a guy says, look, I'm going to turn this into the greatest baseball team of all time. I'm willing to lose 15 billion. I can live on 2 billion easily, comfortably. So I'm not in business. I'll retire and chill out on $2 billion. And he's willing to lose 15 billion. Can you imagine you try to sign a guy like Ohtani? You call him in, you offer him a 12-year contract, you're offering him $75 million a year. Can you imagine that? Are you off Ohtani a deal that's $1 billion in total value over years? What you could do. That's a dangerous guy.
I don't think Major League Baseball would even allow that, Jack.
There's no rule. They can't set a new rule as he's trying to do it.
I don't think. I think they would have a hard time.
Jason laughing at it. He say LOL. Jason was talking about the Tampa Bay won two.
That's why they're so popular.
Stanley Cup.
Well, that's why they're more popular. If they were losing, the hockey team wouldn't be as popular. Hockey team's got to win. Yeah. Let's clarify. That's a good point by Jason. Unlike other sports, hockey teams have to be really good to overtake, baseball, football, basketball. Unless you're in a Canadian team like the Toronto Maple Leafs, because that's a hockey-rich city, Canada. Right. They'd be more popular. I would think they're more popular than the Toronto Blue Jays. But I heard the Toronto Raptors, who are just very average, might be the most popular team in Toronto.
Yeah, they really became popular about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
We're talking other sports, and who's been in the news a lot? But Ohtani for $75 billion. million. No, that's a little extreme right now. I just want to comment on that. Ohtani, the bidding is going to start at 50 million a year for Ohtani. That's where it's starting. No ifs or buts about it. Teams shouldn't even make an offer unless they're starting at 50 million when he's a free agent. Assuming he's healthy, has the type of year we know he's probably going to have, because you're getting two players in one for Ohtani, a pitcher and an everyday player, regular. So when all is said and done, Ohtani's going to get around the high 50, 58 million, 60 million. Teams are really going to go big on Ohtani this year. Might get over 60 million. I know it sounds crazy, but the marketability you're going to get out of this guy. But getting off that basketball, we keep hearing Bronny James being in the news. Do you guys, if you're drafting, you're an NBA team, and next year, do you move up and draft Bronny James a lot sooner than you normally would have if you know LeBron is a free agent and he'll then come to your team? And also, do you want LeBron on your team? Because he could be a pain in the butt. Let's face it, LeBron is a pain in the butt, big time, because a coach gets Bronny and he might think, okay, he's a young player. It's going to take him a while to develop. He doesn't have much of a college background, assuming he plays 1 year in college or wherever. And he's going to get limited minutes. And LeBron is like edgy, being annoying, critical of the coach. What do you do?
Go ahead, Byron.
No, I just think LeBron and Bonnie could probably go to a big marketplace. Go from LA to New York or something like that would be good. But he do say he want to play with his son, when he first eligible to get drafted, if he get drafted in the NBA. But I think they definitely want to be on the same team together. I think there's some possibilities there. It'll be history made, and it'll be good to watch to see what happens if he can play with the son.
Well, there's no doubt. No doubt that Bronny's going to get drafted, and LeBron's going to be on that team. That's already been. You're not going to keep that apart with LeBron. Good question, Jack. About not only being a pain in the butt about himself, but now his son is involved. How much playing time are you going to give him? Is he going to come off the bench? Is he going to start? I watched some highlights of Bronny James. He's not bad. He's a little smaller LeBron. He can get up in there and dunk and make some 3-point shots. So you're not going to get a scrub. He's going to be he'll be good on a team. But how good will he be in the pros is the question. And if LeBron James is with him, he's going to get playing time. No,
but let's say, for argument's sake, on his own, if he wasn't LeBron James' son, he would have gone somewhere like 17th overall in the first round, okay? If you're a team, do you pick him with the 3rd overall pick because you figure I'm getting LeBron James with Bronny? Then isn't that a disservice to the kid? Doesn't it look obvious when you're picking way ahead of where you would pick him because you want to get LeBron? And LeBron's already said, I'll play for whatever team gives me money-wise. They don't have to worry about my contracts. And now LeBron James is a free agent, and he's getting a minimum contract from the league. That's like ludicrous. But LeBron James is wealthy beyond his wildest dreams. So all his outside endorsements and all the money he already has, he can afford to play for virtually nothing, LeBron. And he'll do it to play with Bronny.
Yeah.
To play that year, to be together with Bronny. But what about this scenario, guys? What happens if a team drafts Bronny and they don't make a deal for LeBron? They decide they're not going to sign him. A coach feels, I can't deal with LeBron. I can't this, I can't that. Bronny's a good young player, and I just want Bronny on his merits, but I don't want to deal with the baggage LeBron brings. Believe it or not, it is baggage. Not on the court because he's a great, great player, but LeBron's been a coach killer. If you're a coach, you don't want to put up LeBron kind of egging you on, looking at you on the bench, glaring at you when you're putting Bronny in, making remarks to the media. LeBron, he's been critical of coaches. He's made a lot of anti-social remarks, LeBron, which I could start pointing out, which people have given him passes on. But the point is, when LeBron says something, it's news. It's out there.
Yeah.
And now we got to deal with it as an organization. Is it worth it? Is LeBron so great he could deliver you all these victories and increase the value of your franchise? What do you think, Byron?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I just depend on who want to put up with all of that, because it could be a distraction. I think the game should be played the way the game should be played, but but it will be exciting to see if that can develop. The son and dad playing together, but he is controversial and he brings a lot of news, and it'll be the head coach wouldn't have no right to coach the team really. So you give up that right. And you give up a lot of opportunities to where you lose the value of team and so forth. So I just think it'd be something good to see if it can happen. But yet it's a lot of things, like you said, Jack. It's a lot of things you have to put up with LeBron.
With that said, I gotta admit, I'm more likely to watch that game to want to see LeBron and Bronny on the court together.
Yeah.
I'll be honest about it. I'm more likely to tune into that game than I am to a game like the Celtics and Bucks. And by the way, the Celtics beat the Bucks by over 40 points last night in Milwaukee. You kind of wonder they trying to send a message that they wanted to beat them extra bad, because a lot of people feel it's going to come down in the NBA East to those two teams, even though I wouldn't discount the other teams.
Well, Milwaukee just played the night before, and they played a game with a lot of points. I'm not sure if they were home or not during that game, but the Celtics caught them right. I mean, the Celtics came in, they're fresh. Milwaukee was kind of dragging from that. I think it was 141 to 136 they won that game by. So they caught them at a good time. I don't think it's going to mean much when the playoffs come around, So.
Yeah.
But speaking of, both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are always in the news. They're asking him about them having left the Nets. Kyrie says he doesn't understand. He wanted to finish the season with the Nets. I mean, what is he talking about? He's a guy who asked to be traded. Now he's making it out, I don't understand. I got traded. I would have liked to finish the year out and see what happened. And Durant is saying there's nothing but love. Nothing but love. And, Durant strikes me as a nice person. Don't get me wrong. He strikes me as a nice person. But the thing is, Durant said in the offseason he wanted to be traded. We had all that drama going on. And then the Nets weren't going to trade him. They held firm. And then Durant gave and he came back. And then he had a chance to stay with the Nets. But after they traded Kyrie, he said he wanted to be traded. He said he wanted to go to Phoenix, and the Nets actually accommodated him. They worked out a deal with Phoenix, and Durant does appreciate that a lot because they send him to where he wanted to be. So he's saying nothing but love with him and the Nets. They're always going to be like a family to him. What kind of family? If they're like family to Durant, should have stayed here and assumed the leadership role, mentored young players. He already had a couple of championships when he was with Golden State, but he wanted to go elsewhere. He wanted to chase another ring somewhere else sooner than stay with the Nets, be a leader, say, these are my guys. And listen, chances are it could work out for Durant because the Phoenix wins an NBA championship. That's great. And it's worked out with the Nets, that deal, getting Mikal Bridges, who's turning into a star. But Durant's talking about how nice the net organization is, how beautiful it is, how well they treated him. Then why did you want out? I don't get it.
Well, he wanted another ring. I think that's the reason why he wanted to go to a team that probably could get to win an NBA championship.
And Jason agrees with you. I mean,
not a leader.
Guys, I think they talk about legacy and greatness and stuff like that. And that's where Durant falls short, right? Every great NBA player you can think of that, has a great legacy, the Michael Jordans, the Bill Russells, the Wilt Chamberlains, Larry Birds, I can go on and on, the Magic Johnsons. They were leaders on their team. And they weren't necessarily always the best basketball player on the team, but they were the leader of their teams. And that's where Durant falls short when you're talking about, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And so that's the biggest problem I have with Kevin Durant.
Yeah, and some of those guys you just named, the 3-point wasn't even in effect. And those guys just think for scoring and the ability, but what you bring to your team is a lot different. And the leadership is very important. I think, how you make the players around you great as well as you doing what you're supposed to be doing.
They're good leaders and they're bad leaders too.
Yeah.
So now Kyrie Irving, say what you want about him. He's a leader, not a good leader, unfortunately. Don't misunderstand me. I'm sure he's played with a lot of guys who liked him, and I'm sure he's tried to do the right thing at Dallas, in that sense, get along with everyone. They probably like him inside the locker room at Dallas. It's just not working out the chemistry, him, Luka, the rest of the team. But he, I know with the Nets, he was an awful leader over there. When he showed up to work, he would be good. Okay. But then, he was so erratic in his behavior and all. But the thing with Kevin Durant, it doesn't mean he's not a very nice person, but he's just, unfortunately, he wasn't a lead at OKC with Russell Westbrook. Then he went to the Warriors. Steph Curry was really the leader there in reality, and then with the Nets, he deferred to Kyrie. But listen, good luck to him, where he is, at Phoenix, and maybe they do, win a championship. The NBA is fun this year with all the parity, but do you think that the Mavericks might not even make the play-in tournament?
Yeah,
that's people are disappointed. Not to cut you off, people are disappointed out here in Dallas. Kyrie Irving is saying the right thing, but I think too that you have to put in a lot more time in the practice in the locker room and make sure that you can mix the ingredients for success. Because just going out there on the court and playing is one thing, but being able to play with team structure. And they just losing all kind of momentum. It's something wrong with they don't play defense, but it's something wrong with the way that they've been playing that don't seem to gel, and they can't win a game. I mean, it's just terrible that they can't hardly win.
Good morning, Keith. How you doing?
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good morning.
Doing real good. We're talking about one of your favorite players right now, Kyrie Irving.
I'll see you guys later.
I wanted to ask Keith about the rumor. I hear, there's a possibility in the air, a 1-for-1 deal. Emmanuel quickly goes to Dallas for Kyrie for the playoff push.
I'd immediately become a Dallas Mavericks fan, I think. There's no way the Knicks are bringing Kyrie to this team. I mean, the guy, look at how many more teams are going to take a chance on this guy and think they can build around him? He's destroyed every team he goes to. He's doing it in Dallas, the same thing he did everywhere else.
Yep. He's arguing with fans and carrying that out there. Keith, I think Dallas has got it wrong with the major thing. Luka and him can't be on the court at the same time. They're basically the same player, right? They're basically going to take the 3-point shots. They're going to drive to the hoop. They're the same player. So you can't play them together. You'd have to play them separately, and you're paying Kyrie and Luka way too much to do that. But that's how you would have to do to be more successful on Dallas.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, Kyrie's got to dominate the basketball, and so does Luka. And Luka's a better player. Sorry.
Yeah.
And he needs to be the guy that they build around. That Kyrie won't be there next year.
Is it possible that Kyrie is going to be the Lamar Jackson of basketball? Who's going to sign him to the deal he wants, the big deal? Is there anyone who's going to take a chance on him that you could see a team being bold enough to think Kyrie is going to be a major difference maker for us? Because he is a tremendous talent. He is a tremendous player. Yeah. But is it worth the baggage?
Yeah, the problem is, and I say this all the time, in every sport, there's one dumb owner. There's always one guy who'll think, I can turn this guy around, or I've got the guys that he can play with, and he'll find a job until he can't play, right? And then he won't have a job. But I wouldn't want him on my team. I mean, again, how much evidence do you need that the guy's a cancer on your team, and it's just not smart to do?
So
Yeah.
Keith, let's get to what we bring in for the New York Yankees and the Patriots and the Knicks, and a lot of news on all of them. Of course, New York Yankees win their first game. Aaron Judge homers. Gleyber Torres has a great game. Volpe, first game. I think he was batting second, if I'm not mistaken, in the lineup. Down low. I think maybe ninth or something.
He batted ninth. Yeah, he batted ninth. Yeah.
And he ended up walking and stealing a base. Not a great thing, but it got his feet wet. And there's going to be a lot of comparisons, as Jack said, to Jeter, with Volpe being so young and playing shortstop for the Yankees. I don't know. Maybe defensively he'll be as good as Jeter. I don't think he'll hit as good as Jeter did. But it's just fun seeing these young guys out there.
Agreed. And with the Yankees not improving some of the places they needed to improve, like left field and third base, and the pitching's falling apart, I get it. But one thing I really thought will help them this year, and helped a little bit last year too with Cabrera and Peraza a little bit, is some influx of energy from some of the kids. And Volpe is generating a huge amount of excitement in the stadium. Amongst the players, Judge has taken him under his wing and really taking the captaincy on seriously, and I think doing a great job with him and some of the other kids. Volpe got the second biggest ovation yesterday when the players were introduced to Judge, and he played flawlessly in the field. He played. That's a good. You're not, unless you're going to hit a couple home runs. You're probably not going to have a better major league debut than he had. What can you do? You didn't make any mistakes. You said stole a base, scored a run. As far as the Jeter comparisons, I get them. It's early to do. But what I see from him, and again, it's a small sample, it's got nothing to do with performance at all. The way he carries himself and the way he kind of gets it, I like, and I see a little of Jeter in the way he does that. And I think Judge has been a good example for him, because Judge was the same way when he came up. He carried himself like Derek Jeter did before he was, a big star. And even after he became a big star. And I hope that continues. As he does develop and become a really good player, whether it's Jeter-esque or not, I hope he continues to carry himself the way he is today, because he seems like a really good kid, and I like that, and the kind of character you want on your team. And he could be one of the leaders on this team. Now, he may not be playing shortstop all that long either, because Peraza is a better defensive player. And if they keep them both, if one guy gets moved somewhere, it might be
Keith,
Let's not. Go ahead, Jack.
Keith used the keyword kid. I think the fans are going to be very gentle with Anthony Volpe. Even if he struggles for a while, they're going to be very patient for a good part of the season, at least with him, and not get on him. But the two players who they're not going to be patient with are on immediate probation, who have to produce right off the bat, Josh Donaldson and Aaron Hicks.
Absolutely.
It's imperative they get off the good start. Donaldson got a hit yesterday. They won the game. Okay. Hicks will see what transpires. But those guys cannot afford a slow start, because they're going to be the Joey Gallows of last year, where it's going to get to be savage if they're really struggling a lot. So
I agree with all of that. I mean, Volpe will get kid gloves, if you will, from the press a little bit and the fans. Unlike Kiner Falefa did not get that last year. I think partly because the fans didn't really want him here. He got traded for a fan favorite in Gio Urshela. So that didn't help his cause any. And then when he started really, making errors pretty much every game, things kind of fell apart. I don't think when Volpe goes through his slumps, which he will, he's a kid. I think they will be kinder to him, as you said. And the other two guys, they need to be gone yesterday. So,
yes. Of course, Derek Cole pitches a whale of a game. He probably
who's your favorite pitcher, Mac.
I know, right? I mean, I think that. He is. He's winning.
Fair.
We're not going to get rid of Garrett Cole. Wait a second, Keith. Didn't Mac want to get rid of him at some point?
Yeah, I believe he did. He was not worth, being on the sheet.
We were paying him at the time. He was not. He should have took a pay cut for that game. But anyway, I mean, he looked like one of the best pitchers in baseball. 11 strikeouts, 6 innings strong, 3 hits. Bullpen did his job. We were worried about pitching, but at least for game one, we don't have to worry about it. So the pitching staff looked good as well as the offense yesterday.
Yeah, the bullpen pitched well. Cole was, as you know, for the first game was just exceptional, and I expect him to have a big year this year. Now, again, the rotations kind of fall apart around us with Cortez hurt a little bit. Severino's now banged up. We know Rondon is out for a bit. Clark Schmidt's going to get his chance to step up, and I think Clark Schmidt's another guy, another kid. It's just he's had a couple chances before, but I don't think he was ready for the big stage. I think he may take advantage of this these starts he's going to get in April, and he may become part of this rotation full time, even when everybody gets healthy. I like this kid a lot. I like his makeup. They used him in the bullpen. He pitched pretty well out of the bullpen last year, but they still want him to be a starter in the long run, and I like him a lot. The Yankee problems are still there later on when we get them. They're going to be fine in a regular season. It's going to matter whether they can make improvements in that left field and third base, and they have an approach at the plate that can beat elite pitchers like the Astros are loaded with in the postseason. That's going to be what it comes down to. Yeah. I think they face off in the ALCS again, both those teams.
I don't agree with it, but I think it's a good possibility.
Yeah.
A little bit about the Knicks, of course. Randall, he gets hurt. He'll be out for 2 weeks, just before the playoffs. Playoffs start in 2 weeks, so they'll re-examine him again and see how he's doing. Does that affect the Knicks making the playoffs as not being a play-in team? I know they'll end up being a play-in team even if they don't do so well. But
there's only 5 games left, right? They've got a 4-game lead on the Heat for the last playing spot. I don't see them losing 5 straight games. I mean, does it affect them? Absolutely. I mean, as well as Brunson's played, the guy they could least afford to lose going into the playoffs is Julius Randle. They don't have a guy just to step in and play. I mean, they'll play Hart there. Toppin will get a little more time, but they're not going to play as well as Julius Randle played this year. Right. And he's the guy they could least afford at this time. And I'm not really optimistic that he's going to be anywhere near 100% if he plays at all, especially early in the playoffs.
I think he'll play, Keith, no matter what. I think he's playing.
I think he'll play, but again, I don't think he'll be close to 100%, which is going to be a problem. So,
unless if things play out the way I think they will with the play-in tournament and all, and the regular season ends basically as is, which there's a good chance it will, the Knicks are going to be the 5th seed, right? Mm-hmm. So chances are they're going to have to play the 4th seed in the first round of the playoffs. Chances are, and that looks like it's going to be the Cleveland Cavaliers. Yeah. That is a tough matchup for the Knicks.
It is.
There's a lot of it is a tough matchup for sure. There's also the interesting sideline story of Donovan Mitchell, who badly wanted to be a Knick, and they couldn't get it done. So he's going to be fired up for that series, and it's going to be a tough series for the Knicks, especially with a less than 100% Julius Randle. So, I've said they need to win it. I think they need to win a playoff series, or there could be some serious repercussions for some of the management. But now maybe if they go in there, with one hand or ankle tied behind their back, whatever you want to say, they might get a pass on that. But it's going to be very tough. I think Cleveland's a very bad matchup for the Knicks.
There's no doubt. The Knicks did win 101-92 without Randall, beat Miami. Jimmy Butler ignores Josh Hart's fist punch at the end of the game. I don't know if that's a big deal or not, but they're making a big deal out of it, Keith. Hart to me, that was one of the best moves we made this year. He really is
tremendous. He's a guy who contributes in all facets of the game. It doesn't always show up in the box score either. And you need a guy like that. He had a big game. He scored. Him and Quickly both had really good games off the bench against the Heat, and they're going to be keys going forward. And Hart's going to get called on more with Randall. If Randall's out, certainly the next 5 games he will. As Jack said, though, they got a 3-game lead over the Nets. They're 4 games behind the Cavaliers. I doubt they're going to either improve their position or get worse. I think it'll be stuck right there at the 5 spot. I like Josh Hart. I love what he's brought to this team, and I don't think it's that's when they really took off. If you remember, it was a week or 10 days later, they went on that 10-game winning streak, I think, or maybe a couple of weeks more than that. But once he got integrated into this team, he's been very, very important. And him and Brunson play well together. They've been playing. They play together a lot as they played in college together at Villanova. So
I'm checking to see where Cleveland is compared to the 76ers right now.
They're 2 games behind them. Yeah.
So there's still a chance that they catch the 76ers.
2.5. Yeah. I was saying the Knicks can't improve their slot.
Right.
Well,
I'm talking about the matchup. I think the Knicks matchup against the 76ers would be a lot easier than Cleveland.
Yeah, I think so. Because to me, if you play the Sixers, you just let Joel Embiid get his points and whatnot, and stop everybody else, and you'll have your chance. So just don't let anybody else beat you.
Right. So I think if that happens, it's better for the Knicks than it would them playing. I watched them play Cleveland last time. They just they were Cleveland's just too quick for them.
Yeah, really 2.5 games to make up with. They've got 5 games left, and Philadelphia's got 6. So it's not good. That's a lot to make up in that short period of time, but it could happen.
Yeah, definitely. A little Patriots news. More bad news from McGinnis. Actually got arrested. 8 years with assault of a deadly weapon. It was in a nightclub with a broken bottle. Feel bad for him. He was a great football player for the Patriots, Keith. And, I don't understand what happens to some of these players after they get out of football.
It's very odd because, again, and I don't know whether Byron's had interactions with Willie or not, but, through his Patriot career, he was pretty much, especially after his younger years, he was pretty much a stand-up guy. He seemed he was good in the community. He did a lot of good things. And I know he was a little bit more wild when he was younger, but he seemed to really grow into it, to leader of that team when he was there. And afterwards, he seemed to be, still an upstanding citizen. And it just felt like this was out of character. And I haven't heard a lot of stuff come up that say, okay, well, he's also done this and he's done this. I don't know what precipitated this. And I hope, he doesn't, I don't know. I just hope it comes out with some kind of decent resolution for him. And then he doesn't have to spend a lot of time away because of one stupid incident. I don't know. Byron, do you know Willie off?
I know some players that play with him, and they talked about his leadership and what he meant to the team during his playing days. But it's uncharacteristic that they said that they couldn't believe that happened to him in that nightclub or whatever he was at in L.A. And I just hate it for him, but. Yeah, and, you're a target when you go into a lot of these places. Once they find out you played, and that's the deal.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, in the society that we live in. I mean, there's 100 guys you could say this guy got in trouble this way, NFL players or ex-NFL players, and I wouldn't have batted an eye. Right. But Willie McGinnis is a guy that makes me go, "You're kidding! There's no way." Something had to happen that I don't know about, but we'll find out, I guess.
Yeah.
Other Patriot news, of course, the talking again is that. Bill Belichick may be let go of, and him and the owner are getting along, and he's better do something. And the Patriots really haven't made no moves in the offseason. They were talking about Lamar Jackson and the Patriots. Would Bill Belichick, or would the owner allow Bill Belichick to talk to Lamar Jackson and actually bring him in? But I've been hearing this for the past couple of years, Keith, and Bill Belichick is still. If he went somewhere, he'd be signed immediately. It's ridiculous.
I don't know that he'd go anywhere if he left the team. And do I think the pressure's on Bill to, start producing again a little bit? Yeah, there is some pressure, but I still don't think, he's got to worry about his job right now. And as far as whether, I don't think there's a split that Kraft wants to bring Jackson in and Belichick doesn't, because the way the Patriots structure their, salary structures isn't just Bill Belichick. That's also Robert Kraft and the entire team that works on that, right? These teams have a philosophy, and they have a whole team that manages a salary cap. So I don't see the Patriots ever paying Lamar Jackson what he wants. And another piece of this, Asante Samuel needs to just shut up. He was Bill Belichick yesterday. Shut up. Telling Lamar Jackson, don't go there. When you don't win, guys aren't happy. You won a bunch of Super Bowls, and if I'm not mistaken, you got a pretty good contract when you went to the Eagles because of your performance and what you learned playing with the Patriots. So just shut up. That's not
I think it comes down to how much power Bill Belichick would be willing to give up down the road. He's something like 18 wins away from tying or passing Don Shula for most wins in NFL history.
Yeah.
But let's say, hypothetically, the Patriots go 6-11 and 7-10 this year. Let's say it happened.
Yeah.
I think Kraft would keep Belichick on as coach under the condition he gives up power, just coaches, and he brings in other people, Robert Kraft. Would Bill Belichick be willing to give up the power just to stay on as coach? He's an older guy. He's going to be in his early 70s, I think, and for him to go somewhere brand new and him to start all over, would he really want to do that? But then again, maybe he wants to break that coaching record for most wins.
Well, I think he would tell you that he doesn't care about records and whatnot. He cares about winning Super Bowls, but he's like everybody else, and I think he's going to want to win that. And I think if it takes 3 years to get to those 18 wins, it's going to get ugly in Foxborough. That's what I think. And we've talked before that rather than getting fired, he might get stripped of some of his power, which would maybe with an ego like he has. And he's had an iron fist, or had that in an iron fist for 20 plus years, almost 25 years. I think it would cause a problem, but I don't know if he'd hang on to go somewhere else just to get the record. I don't know. I'd like to see him get it in the next 2 years in New England, and then we don't have to have this discussion because that'll mean we had at least one decent year.
Well, it would be a team that would, if he went elsewhere, that would be ready to have double-digit wins. Maybe a team like the Dallas Cowboys, if they moved on from Mike McCarthy, could say, hey, this could be an 11-win team. This could get me over the top the next, one season. I can break the record there.
Yeah, but can you imagine Bill Belichick dealing with Jerry Jones after dealing with Bob Kraft?
That's what I was just going to say. If Bill Belichick goes to the Cowboys and that's following Parcells again, I don't think he wants to do that.
Belichick could walk away before the training camp was over.
Yeah. Keith Reel, I want to get to this a little bit. Of course, Roy White has done his biography. It's from Compton to the Bronx. I got my signed copy already.
By the way, do we know if that's on Kindle yet or not? I haven't looked. I know
it's on Kindle. I know it's on Amazon. I know that.
They might be on Kindle. I'll check it out. I definitely want to get it. Yep.
Yeah. So he's going to sign a book signing in right field. I'm not sure of the date. And he's going to be signing books there, and maybe this is what pushes him to Monument Park. Never mind, he played great for the Yankees 15 years. It's sort of a popularity contest, right? I mean, maybe this is a thing that puts him over the top and gets him in Monument Park. Yeah,
it might be. I wish it would. I think there's several guys like Roy White. I mean, Greg Nettles is another guy. Bobby Mercer ought to be considered. They play now. Nettles played during championship seasons, but Mercer and White were the backbone of this team when they weren't very good, but they were good players. They weren't winning championships or even divisions. And I think they've been, the Yankees give away monuments like they're.
You mean Nettles and White, not really Bobby Mercer.
No, I think Bobby Mercer should be considered because he's for his entire achievements with or contributions to this ball club through his entire career, except for 5 years he was away, or 4 years he was away. That's all. He spent his entire career here as a player, as a executive, and as a broadcaster, and he meant a lot to guys like me, just like Roy White means to Mac. And they carried these teams when there was nothing to root for. You're putting guys in there. Reggie Jackson, God bless him, played 5 years with the Yankees. How's he got a plaque and Roy White doesn't? Come on.
Yeah, well, Paul O'Neill had his number retired. I can't figure that out. Now the Yankees are complaining they don't have enough numbers. They don't want their coaches to wear numbers. They issued something, an appeal to Major League Baseball. Now, CC Sabathia, they're going to probably retire his number at some point.
No, I love CC.
Not worthy of that.
No, I love CC.
O'Neill's not worthy of that.
No, I love CC. No, Paul O'Neill, loved him as a player. Should not have his number retired. Shouldn't have a plaque.
Not even close with Paul O'Neill having a retired. I can understand Paul O'Neill having a plaque in Monument Park. I mean, I can understand it's just plaques there. You want to give great players. even you consider down the line a Brett Gardner played 14 years for the Yankees. You consider it. Seriously consider it. I'm not saying whether you do it or not, but retiring a number, that should be only for legends. Paul O'Neill, it wasn't even on the radar of being a legend.
Agreed. And Roy White, listen, a lot of years, very consistent, and a lot of years they were trying to replace him. Like every year, they were trying to bring somebody in to replace him, but he keep winning his job back by the time the games got important. Once they got good, they couldn't get rid of him. And I think he's been disrespected by this organization for a long time, back right through the time he was playing. And I think it's time that they correct that. I agree with you, Mac. And congratulations on you putting him and Dr. Semendinger together.
Yeah, I mean, I was called a sports legend network guy by Dr. Paul. So I'm a legend you're talking to now.
Well, I didn't realize. Now I got to.
And I've read through most of the book already. It's a tremendous story. He came from the streets of Compton. He was in a gang. He went to jail. I mean, there's a lot of things happening with him at the time, and the constant fight for him, falling down, coming back, falling down, coming back, and getting to where he was. He does mention Bobby Mercer a lot in the book. They were roommates. Bobby Mercer did have some really good years with the Yankees. He had 33 home runs one time.
He was my guy.
Batting average was pretty high. What killed him was Shea Stadium. When they played at Shea Stadium, that killed him as far as power went. And,
it got in his head, and it was, But Roy Wood too. And I know you interviewed him. He was one of my early interviews when I started doing the podcasting, and it was one of my favorite ones. And he went through a lot to get to the major leagues. He was playing in Deep South, and there was a lot of racial issues that he kind of had to go through, like a lot of players did at that time. And he persevered, and as you said, became an integral part of that for a lot of time.
You mentioned Reggie Jackson before. There's this new documentary that just came out on Reggie Jackson. It's on Netflix.
I watched it the other night.
I watched it, and some points were well taken, but Reggie was being Reggie, completely self-serving.
You know what's funny? Reggie was quoted as saying one of his worries about this project was that he didn't have any control. It looked to me like he had total control over this thing. Because it was Reggie propaganda right and left, but
that's because of Bob.
It was enjoyable. Don't get me wrong; I enjoyed watching it, but
it gets me. What he said about Billy Martin. Billy Martin was a first-class jerk who was bad to Reggie. He treated Reggie awful, like he did some other players.
He didn't want him. He didn't
want Reggie there. But Reggie's saying that Billy Martin didn't bat him cleanup because he didn't want a black man batting cleanup. But Chris Chambliss was batting cleanup, and he's black. So what the heck's Reggie talking about?
Billy had a lot of faults. Billy was
just admit Billy Martin was bad to him. Yeah, he was bad to him. But Reggie, you got the feeling, he denied everything he said about Thurman Munson. And I like Munson's line. He says, 3,000 words over and over.
You missed a word in that quote, by the way. There was an F in that quote as well.
But Reggie was one of my favorites when he played with the Yankees. I loved him. He was charismatic. He was
absolutely.
But Reggie wasn't a victim on these things, except when he was a minor league player coming up. He had to undergo all these things in the South, which was awful, what was done with him. But once he came to the Yankees, Reggie was all about ego. I mean, he was,
Listen,
whatever.
One of the great comments about Reggie, was by Mickey Rivers, who great player, not the brightest guy in the world, but he was cornered by the press one time after a game when all this stuff was really all going on, and he said, "How about Reggie? Reggie, he claims he's got an IQ of 137, and Mickey goes, out of what, 1,000?" Like the funniest thing I ever heard.
Hey, man, I got to go. I got to go get him. I got a meeting over here.
Yeah, and I missed you too.
Byron,
I got to jump at 9:30 myself.
Okay, Byron, great job with your kids there, hitting grand slams and stuff in baseball. Have a good one, my friend. We'll see you next Friday.
Byron.
Take care, Byron.
Take care, my friend.
Okay, have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care,
So there
Keith.
you go, folks.
Man, 2 at once. We had 2 guys. We got cut in half very quickly.
I'll tell you, that was a mass
Yeah.
exit there, Keith. Jack. So let's check out. We got some comments here. Reggie. All right. Reggie Jackson was also Puerto Rican, and his mother was Boricus.
I'm talking about the documentary. Reggie is making himself out to be a victim all throughout the documentary. Now, he was a victim early in his career playing in the minor leagues. The racial discrimination he had to undergo playing, Birmingham. I'm 100% with him there. It was awful. Once Reggie got to the big leagues, he's playing with the Oakland A's, then he went to the Orioles, then he went with the Yankees. And it was, it was drama with Reggie all the time with the Yankees. They don't discuss in the documentary, they don't go into detail. When Reggie got suspended because he refused to bunt in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then he changes, and then Billy Martin takes the bunt sign off, and Reggie's insisting he's going to keep bunting with the bunt sign off. I mean, come on, you don't overrule a manager like that. You decide what you're going to do. It was beneath him to bunt, beneath him to sacrifice a runner.
Yeah, well, I think
that just shows the selfishness of Reggie Jackson putting himself before team.
Well, see, Steinbrenner was enabler too, Jack, during Reggie's days. I mean, he's the one that got, of course, Reggie Jackson. He knew Billy Martin didn't want him. Thurman Munson sure didn't want him there, but he got him.
No. In the beginning, it wasn't a problem when they signed Reggie.
Listen, it wasn't a problem with Thurman. I don't think Billy Martin wanted Reggie Jackson, Jack.
Billy Martin didn't want him there all along. Billy Martin wanted Joe Rudy.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It was George Steinbrenner, to his credit, who saw Reggie Jackson as a star. Sure. He increases the value of this team. George Steinbrenner loved the idea of getting superstars, okay? But to Billy Martin's thinking, he liked the guy who wasn't the big home run hitter, wasn't the big star talent. He liked a Rod Carew type talent who could, keep the chains moving. And but Billy Martin loved Rod Carew, so maybe that's a bad example because he didn't manage him when he was in charge of the Minnesota Twins.
Right.
But so he doesn't want Reggie Jackson. So right off the bat, Reggie Jackson's in a bad place when he came to the Yankees because Reggie would have liked to have a good relationship with Billy Martin. It was important to him. And Billy Martin did jerk Reggie around. Like he did a lot of other players, Billy Martin, a lot of other players. He wouldn't bat Reggie cleanup, but right there, what was the big deal about batting cleanup? That means you're hitting fourth. To me, it was pure stupidity at the time. You know what that was like, Mac? When I was in school, I'm a student in school. I recognized this in the dark ages when I was in elementary school, junior high school. We were told if you sneeze into your hands, cough into your hands. And I'd always think how idiotic that is. You're putting the germs on your hands and now you're spreading it all over the place. You don't do that. But so the thought was cleanup. Oh, the first 3 guys are going to get on base and then I'm going to hit a grand slam and get them home. Well, if the first 3 guys never get on base, it never works out that way. Now analytics, which I never needed because I understood this without analytics, is showing put your best hitters up first or second in the lineup. But Reggie had to hit fourth. Martin refused to hit him fourth. All of a sudden, and late in the season, finally, a little past the midway point, Billy Martin started hitting Reggie cleanup because George Steinbrenner told Billy Martin, either you bat Reggie cleanup, Billy, or you're getting fired. He finally had enough, George Steinbrenner. And Billy Martin worked out a deal if he could bring back his old pitching coach from the Twins and the Tigers, Art Fowler, who in reality was Billy Martin's drinking buddy, okay? Right. He'll bat him cleanup, and George Steinbrenner allowed that. He gave him Art Fowler's drinking buddy, and Reggie could then hit cleanup to soothe his ego.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, I think finally Steinbrenner went with the suspension after the fight, almost fight in the clubhouse. That's when.
No, he didn't suspend. No one got suspended. It was the following season when Reggie Jackson wouldn't bunt.
Yeah, there was. I know there was some. Yeah, but I know finally Steinbrenner went along with Martin to support him, and you know.
What Billy Martin did Game 5 of the playoffs against the Kansas City Royals in 1977 to decide who would go to the World Series, Yankees and Royals. He benches Reggie Jackson for that game because Paul split off his pitching. You don't bench a Reggie Jackson because analytics is showing, he doesn't hit him, this and that. That's the equivalent of the Yankees benching Aaron Judge for a game. Can you imagine a final deciding game? You bench Aaron Judge because he's 1 for 24 against a certain pitcher. You just don't do. You might shake your head. Oh yeah, bench Aaron Judge.
I don't know, Jack. I don't know. Did it work out? Did the Yankees win the championship?
Let me tell you what happened.
Right.
The Yankees are losing 3-1 in the 8th inning, and they bring in Reggie Jackson to pinch hit.
Right.
He gets a hit and knocks in a run.
Right.
Now it's 3-2. And Reggie Jackson doesn't get up again, but the Yankees rally with 3 runs in the last inning to pull it out.
Right.
But you don't bench your superstar player. And that's what Reggie Jackson was on the Yankees.
It depends on the situation. I know Casey Stengel, even Billy Martin made a living out of matchups. So I mean, I don't know if what you're saying is totally right or not, Jack. If he could, wouldn't it serve the Yankees better?
Let me
finish. Wouldn't it serve the Yankees better if they did sit Judge a few times? I mean, wouldn't it have been better for the Yankees? I don't know.
If they're playing if they were playing last year, the Houston Astros, for example, in the final game, Game 7 to decide who goes to the World Series, hypothetically.
Right.
And let's say Aaron Judge, lifetime, he's facing Justin Verlander, who was on the Astros last year. And he has, let me give you another number, 3 hits and 36 at-bats lifetime against Verlander. You mean to tell me you're going to sit Aaron Judge that last game and bench him?
It depends on who you have in your lineup. It depends, Jack. I mean, I'm a manager.
You would bench Aaron Judge.
All right, well,
you haven't benched him all year, and you're going to bench.
Say Gleyber Torres is batting 300 on this guy. Do you not sit Aaron Judge when you have a shot at winning the game? I don't know. It's a hard decision.
It's not a hard decision. There's not enough. First off, there's not enough of a body of work.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm just saying, Jack. I mean, would you as a manager take a chance on somebody with a better batting average and that spot than Aaron Judge? I don't know. I might.
You don't do it now. With Billy Martin, let me put it another way. Would he have benched Thurman Munson if Munson was struggling career-wise against a certain so you couldn't see him benching Munson under any scenario, could you?
Not at the time, no, because he's the best catcher. I mean, who are you going to put in the catch?
No, you got guys defensively who could have catched, like Fran Healy, who would have been fine defensively.
I think
wasn't that great defensively at the time.
But you're talking a power hitter compared to a base hitter, Jack. You're talking to Reggie Jackson and Aaron Judge, who are power hitters, compared to a base hitter like a Thurman Munson or whoever the Yankees would have with a better batting average than Judge at the time. I'm saying I don't know. If it came up, I might. If it's a chance of us either winning and going to World Series or stroking Judge's ego, or however you want to say it, not stroking his ego. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think you have a superstar player on your team. You don't bench him, unless he has an attitude problem, whatever, especially Reggie Jackson, big game player too. Keep that in mind. His ego is so big. He's absolutely showing up in top form. Yeah. Okay, the play on national television where he shouted at Reggie in the dugout, Billy Martin. Does anyone honestly think Reggie Jackson, the biggest ego of all, is going to dog it in the outfield and half and loaf after ball intentionally.
I was going to mention that, Jack. Roy White talks about that. He said the sun in Fenway Park in right field is terrible. And it was probably just that Reggie Jackson misplayed the ball. I looked up and lost the ball for a minute, and that's why the ball dropped in. It wasn't intentional that he wasn't gonna
not on national television. He's not gonna loaf after a ball and want to be Reggie's ego, such he's not going to want to be considered a player who's not hustling. He's going to want to, always at least give the impression that he was hustling after, but it showed Billy Martin's hostility towards him.
Yeah.
I support Reggie completely in his conflict with Billy Martin. The fans got behind Billy Martin. I blame Billy Martin. Billy Martin was basically a drunkard. It's a terrible thing to say. He had a severe drinking problem throughout his career. His behavior was very erratic.
Yeah, I understand, but he was one of the greatest field managers there was.
One of the greatest in-game managers. Definitely. Great manager. The way he could improve teams. Look, when the Yankees fired him, he went to the Oakland Athletics. They got better everywhere Billy Martin went. The Tigers, the Twins, the Athletics, he improved those teams.
Definitely.
He was a great manager. You got to kind of give him credit, for that. But Reggie at the end was whining. He's now with the Houston Astros as an advisor to the owner, Jim Crane. But Reggie was complaining the Yankees wouldn't be listening to him on baseball decisions, but they were paying him his money still. They were employing him, paying him his money. They didn't have to do that.
You figure when you got a personality like that, Jack, you want to feel loved, right? You want everybody to love you and that everybody is listening to you and all that stuff. And the Yankees, he was just a figurehead, and he says, I would have been happy. I don't know. Hey, you're getting paid and you're hanging around the players. That's a pretty good job. I don't know.
No, I can understand it got to the point, and I'll give Reggie credit for this. It was more than picking up a paycheck. He kind of wanted to be in on things, decision-making, talking, not just here, take your money and you show up and no one's paying attention to you. Yeah. You feel completely irrelevant, unwanted. But we don't know what went on behind the scenes from the Yankee perspective. Maybe Reggie kept coming up with these suggestions, this and that. Maybe they didn't think he was that good of a baseball guy.
I don't know.
That's a fact as well. Maybe they figured, Reggie is a suggestion guy who's not willing to really work behind the scenes. He's not willing to scout minor league players for us. He's not willing to do this and do that. Listen, I've been on a lot of meetings in boxing groups, where I was on board of directors, and there are tons of suggestion people. Yeah, they're a dime a dozen who are not willing to do the work, but they'll come up with a suggestion. I think we should do this. But how do you make it work? They have no solutions.
Yeah.
But it sounds good.
Sure.
They're suggestion people, and those are a dime a dozen to come up with, really. I'm not saying Reggie was one of them. I'm just saying that they exist.
Well, Jack, let's since Philly Sports Guy didn't make it, let's do a little Philly news. Of course, they lose 11-7 to Texas. Nola didn't look good, as I said. And that's always been their Achilles heel, pretty much. I mean, they made it to the World Series. You got to give them that. But their pitching normally has.
It's a lesson how a team could go on a run in the postseason. Because last year, going into the postseason, and generally, the Dodgers were considered better. The Braves were considered better. The Padres were considered better. The Mets were considered better. It was the Phillies who got to the World Series. So you never know.
Yeah. I mean, you don't. Of course, Pags will have them playing, in the World Series again this year. I think he picked them. So, yeah. Hey, listen, he was right last year, I guess. Let's 76ers, Embiid. They're always talking about who's MVP has a small lead according to a straw poll.
I want him to get it, Embiid. Let me go on the record. I don't want him to get it a third year in a row. I'd like to see Embiid get it, unless the last few games Embiid slumps and gets overtaken. I mean, but I'm kind of, my vote right now would go towards Embiid unless something, changes these last few games.
Gotcha. They had a straw poll, so I guess they don't used to do that in politics. They do in baseball too. So you also have Harden's dealing with Achilles soreness, missing his 4th straight game. Jack, I'd rest him for the rest of the year. The Phillies are in the playoffs. Let him get some treatment. Let him rest.
You're talking about 76ers?
James Harden. He's got Achilles soreness. He's missed his 4th straight game. I'd rest him, give him treatment, get him ready for our playoffs. They're in. I wouldn't even worry about it.
These teams have problems like who to sign. We talked about Kyrie Irving before. James Harden is going to be up for a new contract. He's going to want a big multi-year deal. If I'm the Sixers, I don't give it to him. I question how effective he'll be going forward. He's an older player. Their injury concerns. On balance, he's played well this year. Kudos to him, as far as playing well. But he's not the scoring machine that he used to be with the Houston Rockets. He's just not quite the same player. He's a very good number 2 option for a team. When he was with Houston, he was a number 1 option. He was the guy, like Embiid is now the guy with the Sixers. Teams a lot of times have one player who's the guy. Are they good enough to be the guy? Kevin Durant just went to the Phoenix Suns. He's good enough to be the guy, the man, the number 1 option. And you also have pieces around him like Devin Booker, and so on. But certain players you assign to the deal, like a Chris Paul, he's not good enough now to be the guy, the number 1 guy who you build around, okay? Yeah. So do you give James Harden the money like he's the guy you're building around? I think not. But then again, if another team signs him, you lose him, and then what do you have?
Would Harden take less from the 76ers if they make it a championship?
I don't think so. I think James Harden, I'm not saying he's selfish. I'm not saying that. But he obviously wants the money there. You know why he signed with the Sixers again? It's kind of like he's resetting. He wanted to reset his value because he was coming off an injury-plagued year last year. He wasn't going to get the deal he hoped to get elsewhere. Now he's come back in a way, has had a comeback year, but not to the point where he's going to get the mega deal I think he wants. But it's very tricky. Like the Dallas Mavericks have with Kyrie Irving. In a way, you'd like to keep him, because if you move on from Kyrie, what do you have now? You've given up, pieces to get him.
I don't know.
And now you did it for what? For a partial season that probably is not even going to get you in the play-in tournament the way it looks right now. So what do you do? And if you do give him the big money he wants, you're stuck with this erratic personality for years to come. And even if he's a good citizen, is it going to make your team better? The evidence we see right now, it's not going to make it better for the Mavericks. These are tricky situations, Mac. Very, very tricky. Or do you try a sign and trade to give something for him? But Kyrie's going to make it difficult. Harden's going to make it difficult. Look, they want to get their money. I'm not begrudging them that. But it's a slippery slope for any team signing them.
The Eagles signed defensive tackle Kentavious Street to a 1-year deal on a big defensive tackle. And they want to get, of course, Hurts signed as fast as they can. Before the price goes up. I don't think that will happen. And they will be going back to the Kelly Green jerseys, Jack. A lot of jersey talks and uniform talks in the news.
The Eagles are going to Kelly Green jerseys.
Kelly Green jerseys, back to it. Yep, they were Kelly Green one time. So
why did teams, Mac, you tell me this, why do they find a need to keep changing the look of their jerseys? I don't watch a lot of hockey. Okay?
Sell them, Jack. That's a lot of money.
A lot of hockey. I'll be honest about it. But yesterday, I watched hockey. I tuned in to the New York Ranger, New Jersey Devil game, at Madison Square Garden. I tune into it. And I'm actually watching some of the game, and I'm annoyed at the Devils jersey. They had a beautiful cherry red jersey, one of the a very attractive looking jersey that they normally have, but they're wearing this it looked like a black jersey, or they are very dark gray or whatever.
Yeah,
Why? I mean, why change
It's
the
all
look?
it's all about selling merch, Jack. The more different jerseys, the more you got to buy this one, you got to buy that one. They got a new number. I got to have that number. I mean, it's all about marketing. It's all about merchandise.
Well, listen, my brother-in-law gave me a Yankee cap. He had an extra cap. No, yellow cap, Yankee cap.
What?
When he gave it to me, I'd take anything free, man.
Did
You
it have
give it to me, I'm going to grab it.
Was it yellow with the blue lettering?
No, all yellow solid.
All right.
And I'll admit, I didn't like the look. But a couple of people, I'm wearing it out, they comment, oh, that's a nice looking cap out of nowhere. So now I like it, the color. But even the Yankee caps, why do they keep changing the colors on this and that with the looks and all the teams?
It's all about Jack. It's all about selling new items. Everybody wants the latest stuff, and they're going to spend money on it, and that's the way it is. Back to the jerseys though, and the uniforms. I wanted to bring that up because when I was coaching, the team had these old uniforms. The old tie-up cotton uniforms and the pullover cotton jerseys and stuff. And one of the first things we did when I took over as head coach of the town was I changed their jerseys. I gave them a little more fashionable, I guess it's nylon pants and the bright colors and stuff like that. And it made a difference. When you look at yourself in the mirror or you look at your teammates and you see you look fresh and you look crisp, and it makes you play a little better. It's a little psychology thing going on there. So it is important. It's pretty neat how that works out, even with kids. So let's see.
You're right. You're actually correct. You're correct about that. There was this great trainer, the late Emmanuel Stewart. He liked his fighters wearing white shoes as opposed to black shoes. Okay. Right. Because the white shoes, he thought, made the fighter feel lighter on his feet when they moved around. That would be the psychological perception that they would have. Oh, I'm quick. I have these light. So the lighter the color, the faster he thought the fighter would feel.
Right.
When he was in there, the way he would move around. Such as like solid black shoes would be associated with power punching, like being more still.
Right.
Does it make any sense at all? I don't know. I mean, but that's the perception.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's brighter, it's fresher, it's cleaner, you feel good. I mean, you're wearing these dark, heavy, they look heavy, right? They look like they're heavy shoes, like you say, for a power puncher, instead of somebody that's up on your toes.
Well, even gloves that fighters have, if one has dark gloves, one has black gloves, one has white gloves, does it influence the judges as far as scoring, how the punches are landing? I don't know. That's something that I would like analytics to look into, psychologists, this and that, whether it has an effect, the color of the gloves.
Yeah, I believe it does. NHL standings, Jack, getting near the top of the hour. So we'll go through those. In the Atlantic Division, you have Boston. Of course, they're just tearing up the league at 58-12. Toronto hanging in second at 44-20. Lightning's in third place. They're probably going to make the playoffs again at 44-26. And the Panthers at 38-31. In the Met Division, you have you see this 47-18. It looks like, I can't read my own writing, of course. But anyway, Jersey, as you said, at 47-20. Did they beat the Rangers last night, Jack?
The Rangers won.
Okay. The New York Islanders are at 39-28 in the fourth position. Over in the Central, the Wild, who have been building every year, they're in first. The Stars at 40-20. The Avalanche at 44-24. And Winnipeg is in fourth place there at 41-30.
I'm sorry, Mac. The Devils won 2-1. I'm
Okay,
sorry. I wasn't there for the end of the game.
That's fine. The Pacific Division, the Knights at 46-22. The Kings at 40. Go ahead, Jack.
I think the big story yesterday was the Boston Bruins winning their game. They won a thing called the President's Cup in the NHL.
Yep.
That's getting the most regular season victory points sooner than any other team in history. You know, they clinched it, you know, the best record at the earliest possible time. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on the Bruins to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, if they win the Stanley Cup, they're going to be considered one of the greatest NHL teams of all time because of what they did in the regular season. But of course, we know the NHL playoffs are so unpredictable. You know, you talk about the unpredictability of winning in the playoffs. I think the two sports that stand out are baseball, very unpredictable whether the best team always wins regular season, but hockey more so, maybe more so than baseball. Football is a certain amount of predictability. We know who the powerful teams are. We're probably going to be there at the end. Basketball is less predictable, even though there's a lot of parity this year. But hockey is totally unpredictable, like who could beat who.
Listen, I agree with that. You know, I know you've mentioned this about, you know, having series instead of like they have in March Madness, one game and that's it. It's sort of like the NFL, which I
don't like it. One and done. I never like.
I know you don't.
Football, you have to have one and done.
I think there's no way you could play series. That March Madness would go on forever. The amount of the teams that are in there if you start doing 2 out of 3. But at least I think maybe the last game, Jack, should be a 2 out of 3. You know, the final, the championship game, like the NBA goes 4 out of 7. I know everybody loves one and done, but I think in the last game, especially in basketball, you should at least do 2 out of 3 games to see who would beat the team more times than the other. I think they should change that.
I don't know March Madness. You want to conclude it? You know, I think all these tournaments, Mac, I know we're coming towards an end, but I want to say the interest wears off at the end of all the sports. By the time we get to the World Series, I think fatigue is set in because of it being a long season. We're not as interested by the time we're getting there. I think even the Super Bowl, we have a 2-week gap. We regain interest the last few days before the Super Bowl. We lose it for like maybe the 1 week. I think the fatigue sets in. I think we have that with March Madness. That's the Final Four. But these last few days, I don't think we're excited. We didn't even talk about it this show with UConn game.
Yes, the only
you didn't even mention UConn.
I will tomorrow, Jack. The only thing that I agree with you about, I think we don't have fatigue when we sit in the World Series, but I don't think we watch every game, right? I think if the team's, you know, ready to win or we'll tune it in. If it's the 7th game, of course we're watching it. The first game, maybe not. I imagine the first game is important, but I think you're right to a point where during the World Series, I'm tuning out a little bit because whatever, there's something else on TV. So to that point, you're right. But as far as I think March Madness should end in a 2 out of 3 series, and UConn would still win. So there's my UConn prediction again. Okay, folks. We're coming to the top of the order. I want to thank Byron. Always a pleasure having him on. Byron Williams and Keith Engle. Always fun having him on. So you all have a great Friday night. Be careful if you're going out and partying. And we'll see you tomorrow on the Mac and Jack debate show, which is a lot of fun for us. And then Sunday we have, of course, This Week in Sports with Jim Jeffcoat. And we'll see you tomorrow, guys. Have a great night.